I'm going to try to stick to an hour, Chris, but just one of them things, isn't it?
Yeah. Sure. No, I think it's good. I mean, if you want to run over a bit, or there are a lot of questions, fine. But
yeah.
I mean, it's an obvious one to say, but keep the answers fairly concise if you can. Just means we can get to hear from everyone, really.
Okay.
Yeah. Minimize the waffle, so to speak.
We could just do yes and no's.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'm just better doing this or this.
Yeah,
just
right.
not nod.
Yeah.
that one's the one I'd use most.
Yeah. Or that one.
Yeah. I really don't know. It just happened.
So, Chris, whereabouts do you live, Chris?
In Atlanta.
You're in Atlanta?
Yeah. It just happened. Yeah. I can hear me now.
Chris, I can do that as well.
We're in a time warp, a time jump. It's going in a loop.
You're in Atlanta.
Black Mirror.
Yeah. It just happened. So will I hear that?
No, you won't. No. Chris will be muted and. We're in a time warp, a time jump.
Oh, sorry. It's probably that's probably me. Hang on.
You'll switch your audio off, Chris.
I've got to mute the. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to disappear in a minute. Let me.
I'll take a tea with 2 sugars.
He's not having any of it.
I'll be straight on to the beer.
Okay, I just muted that.
Yeah.
Well, it's 6 o'clock for you, lot, isn't it? Still early for me.
6 o'clock, so I'm going to hit.
Never too early for a drink, like Chris.
Let me just hit record.
Let's start the show by talking about drinking.
That's a great way to start any conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
So what are you drinking?
We're recording, we're streaming, so Ed, over to you, mate, and I'll talk to you later.
Great. Well, welcome everybody to this live ACO Q&A. It's our third one. My name is Ed Wright, and it's my pleasure to be hosting tonight. In front of me, I've got 3 fantastic operators. Let me go ahead and introduce the guys. So I've got Chris Maguire, whose selected credits include Terminator Dark Fate, Bad Boys for Life, and Venom. I also have Fabrizio Sciarra, whose selected credits include Midsommar, A Christmas Carol, and DC's Krypton. And I also have Tony Kay, whose selected credits include Electric Dreams, Cursed, and various episodes of Black Mirror. So welcome everybody. How you doing?
Very good.
Thank you. Very well. Thanks for having us.
And
I'll take a Guinness, please.
Oh yeah, hang on.
Well, your third one.
Oh, we should have done that, shouldn't we? You should have handed it, and I should have. Damn!
I'm just going straight to vodka.
I hope everyone does have a drink.
We missed a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah. So for those of you on Zoom, it's the usual thing. If you, I'm going to ask some questions to the guys, and then feel free to get involved. And there's a tab below, which is Q&A. Click on that, and we'll try and get our questions through to the panel. We are also streaming on YouTube. Our YouTube channel and Facebook Live, and in conjunction with our friends at Cook Optics TV, they are also restreaming the stuff. So welcome to everyone who's on there. Obviously, you can also ask questions on those platforms as well. Just pop them in the chat box, and then they should refeed back into our people will watch them, refeed the questions back into us. So feel free to do that. With that being said, let's get into the talk. There's loads to talk about. Just a couple of, so what are we talking about? We're talking about the art of operating. What do we mean by that? Well, we're talking about the skill and the craft of operating, and how that we put those skills together to have an impact on the creative process. So just a couple of introductory questions really, guys. Fabrizio, if I could start with you. Obviously, sure. You've established yourself as a drama operator in film and TV. But your route into your journey into it is slightly different. It's a bit unusual. Can you tell us about
Indeed, yes, very, very unusual. Well said. Yes, it all started around 30 years ago for me when I left Italy as a scuba diving instructor. Had nothing to do with the industry, and I left Italy. I was 22. Left to have fun, and so I did, of course. What happened during the way in my journey? I started taking pictures underwater. That's because I always had the passion of photographing, and when I was 13, I was already in my dark room experimenting with negatives, and that quickly translated into the water, and then it mutated into filming underwater. And after a few years, I found myself on a film set filming underwater, and all of a sudden I realized that I was more intrigued to what was happening on land than underwater, so or the process of the filming itself on land, and then I fell in love with Steadicam. That's what brought me on operating. I was rewatching for probably the 10th time in my life a very beautiful film, Carlito's Way, which includes an amazing Steadicam, fantastic Steadicam scene operated by Larry McConkie, and there and then I fell in love with Steadicam, and I said, that's what I want to do. That's amazing. You know, that looks incredible. I fell in love with the instrument and the way you can tell stories with it, and then here I am. So I started with my very first workshop in Manchester, and that's it. And then here I am.
Mm.
So yes, a very unusual way.
Yeah, unusual. And did your perception of how you operate or you sort of use the camera underwater affect how you sort of see things?
Absolutely. I realized that a few years ago. I never thought about it, but the skill that I developed operating camera underwater, it definitely applied to the way I see things nowadays, because the ability to freely move the camera in 3D always interacted in a certain way with the way I had to see scenes and basically see the camera movement into space. Nice.
So just to pass over to you, Chris, you're our staunch representative of the ACO in the States there, keeping it real. How did you end up in Hollywood, mate?
Oh, I think I get my own show, mate. Wow, yeah. Well, going right to the very beginning, my old man bought a SLF1 Betamax, a tube camera. I used to run cross country on the weekends, and my dad used to run around this freaking thing, you know, the old tube camera, the CCD thing with the big unit, you know, and he was passionate about it, you know, and he'd film me running around the course, and that was when the kind of fervor started for it, really, you know, in terms of being able to film something so easily and then watch it so easily. That really appealed to me, really, you know, it really did. And obviously there was the film interest, stuff like obviously the Star Wars, and for me and my old man, it was Chariots of Fire and the classical movies, you know, then Amadeus and you know, a lot of those, and Apocalypse Now. And for me, then it turned into the kind of Platoons when it became a lot more of the story, the suggestion of characters. I started to pay a bit more attention to that, you know, and all the while wanting to get into TV, you know, back in Manchester, and trying to find a way in was just I just saw this huge big wall. How was I going to get in there? And I put it all down to serving this guy in a local pub that I was a bartender in. It turns out he was a auto cue guy. He worked for Auto Cue North, a guy called James Cooper, and he was doing a lot of the BBC. And he said, you can come out with me. It's not what you want to do, but you'll meet some people. So yeah, basically the first job I ever did in the world of media was it was a party political broadcast for what was the guy, Screaming Lord, whatever he was.
Lord Such.
Yeah, Screaming Lord Such. It was this thing with him, and it was just nuts. And I just loved it. I loved every minute of it. You know, it was waiting around most of the day, which was kind of weird. But the satisfaction driving away after that 14-hour day was it really I got the bug. Really did get the bug for being a part of something and the team of everybody doing something, and it was really important that they were all doing their bit. And this was just a stupid political thing that was a comedy thing, really, you know. And then basically I got in with a couple of cameramen, one of them being Mike Turnbull out of Granada. He did a lot of World in Action. Did some stuff with Tim Pollard, you know, and a few other guys up in Manchester. Robert Foster, who sadly passed away recently, did a few things with him. And then started shooting under Mike Turnbull for World in Action. I did World in Action, Dispatches, and more the documentary kind of shows as a camera assistant, and then started shooting under Mike. Went to Chernobyl, did a documentary about Chernobyl, did many things. One of the things I was most proud about for World in Action was a doco about a contraceptive pill that was causing thrombosis. And we actually brought about them pulling that medication off the market because of that World in Action. So I was really proud of that. And then kind of really realized that I liked the idea of camera movement. I never liked it just sitting on a set of sticks. I always wanted to feel like the camera should be moving and telling a story as long as it was punctuating the story that we were covering. Not just kind of, here's a camera, let's film something. It was about why are we going to film this? And that's where my mind started to go. And then I realized Steadicam was a way to move with the story, you know, be immersed with that character, with the story being told. And rather than having to stop telling the story, you could keep going with it. And that's what really appealed to me. And that's when I realized that that's where my investment of time was going to go. I got in as much experience as I could with as many people as I could, as much as was given to me. But at the time I was trying to get in, it was very difficult for people to allow you in, because I always felt there was a bit of a closed door with that respect. And you had to really go out there and prove yourself, really prove that you really wanted to do, for me, Steadicam, you know. Then I bought a SK rig from Robin Thwaites at Tiffin and basically tried it out, loved it, put it on the shows that I was on, like Planet Pop. So I used to do a lot of features with a lot of pop stars, Britney Spears, NSYNC, and I'd light it and I'd shoot it and do Steadicam, doing the whole thing without taking a breath, really, and really got off on that. And it was always driving away. It was the satisfaction was just incredible. In a rough day, tough day, but it was the satisfaction, and that's the thing, is that I still have that. You drive away from jobs, and you know it might not have gone your way all day, but you still drive away feeling satisfied. You know what I mean? And even though you're halfway through a day, you think, oh, this sucks, but you still get in your car and you feel that level of satisfaction, and I still feel that now, you know. So I digress.
Long story short, you're in Atlanta and you are working on big Hollywood feature films. So yeah, there you go.
Basically, yes.
Wicked.
But you know what? I'll put I'll sprinkle a little bit of that throughout.
Yeah,
I don't think we've got, Chris, I don't think we've got time for anything else now.
No, I think
the whole time.
Tony, so tell us how you got into it all, please, mate.
Well,
Chris,
I
shut
was
up.
I was 6 years old.
Picked
When
up
I held my
a
first
video
camera.
camera. Yeah. I wanted to ask you
Bet
actually,
you didn't
Tony,
do auto cue, though, did you?
Definitely didn't.
Tony. Hi, Tony.
Hello, Ed. How you doing?
Since you're a TV guy, you work in high-end TV over here in the UK, and you've been in it for a while. So can you tell me a little bit about your perception of it and how it's changed over the years?
In
yeah.
TV drama, or
yeah,
so I came through the route of loader and focus puller, and went through that way. So, and all the TV shows that I did they were all in 16mm. Everything was 16mm or Super 16. So, the time that I was focus pulling, I think the 416s were just coming out, and we were just gravitating towards digital. So there was a big change there going towards digital. We went through all that nonsense of using Pro 35s, which were attachments you put on high def cameras so you could use film lenses. And that was a whole world of pain for anyone that was involved in that. So that was like a big change there. That was the start of the change going into digital. And so now we're TV for the most part is shot digitally, and is in a very comfortable way. Although I have shot a few shows on 35mm as well recently. But so the technology has completely changed, and now you have so many more gadgets on your mid high end TV dramas, and the quality's changed so much as well. There's so much expected of you, and the schedules are still very short, so you don't have any time really to mess around. So you have to have your systems set in place. So the sort of biggest change that I've noticed, certainly in the past few years, is what is available to us, you know. And crane technology has completely changed. The remote head technology has completely changed. Steadicam technology has changed and moved in different directions. So those are aspects or equipment that's used in big features and also now in TV dramas. So now the high-end TV dramas, like the stuff you might do in Netflix, Amazon, Sony, you know, Apple, they're almost like feature films in that sense, except the schedules are still quite tight, you know, much tighter than you would be doing a feature film. So, but that's been the biggest change, you know, since I was loading on, you know, TV dramas and 16mm to operating now on big Netflix shows, you know. And it's great because you're running around in beautiful, amazingly crafted sets, and you're really with all that you really just try and push yourself, but there's a huge expectancy to deliver the goods in a really short period of time. Well,
yeah, we were, weren't we, before this happened? Yeah, I mean, where does it end with where does it end with the streamers though? Because there's so many platforms now for TV drama. You know, is it just going to keep expanding, and we're just going to get more and more?
Well,
notwithstanding this current situation.
But this current situation is a huge part of where we're going to be in the next few months. Go, Chris.
I was thinking before, do you think people think that subscriptions for streaming are essential at this period of time? You know, when people aren't working, they're not earning anything, they're going to look at all the streaming services they have and they go, oh, that's $15.99. That's well, I'm going to do away with Hulu. I'm going to do away with Netflix, and I'm going to stay with HBO, and I'm going to.
Yeah.
So by rights, aren't we essential workers?
Fabio, what do you think about that?
You know what I mean, though?
I
mean, you know, people are counting on it, and then all these streaming people, you know, they're going to be like, oh, well, we don't know yet. You know, we don't know when we can get back to work. But people are going to start going, yeah, I can't afford this. I can't afford this $15.99, and I can't afford. You know what I mean? I mean, it's the knock-on effect is going to be.
But people are already doing that with other aspects of their life,
right.
The fact that their income's either been reduced or completely stop. So they are like looking at their bills and saying, well, I don't need this, not TV, but anything else, or I'm not going to put money in there because I need money per month to pay for the rent or pay the mortgage, you know. So yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we find ourselves in a very odd place, really, being like the entertainment industry, but the first to shut down and probably be the last to go back, you know, and yet
Most probably.
we have been helpful in keeping people busy in this period of time, you know.
But it's entertainment. We're not essential, you know. And
no, exactly. I mean, I was saying it, you know,
not in the big
but at the end of the day, it's still the subscriptions, you know. It's still the, you know, I mean, Marvel putting out that gallery. Have you seen that gallery thing about Mandalorian?
Right.
You know, I mean, what do Disney have right now to really gain the subscriptions? You know, new things. I mean, Mandalorian will come out. Thankfully, they just finished that before
the second
season
shut
down, essentially. Yeah. So yeah, we're getting political now, aren't we?
Yeah, but you probably find that that some certain subscription channels just will just stop because there won't be enough material, you know, and that's just being a natural course given that no one's able to film anything.
Yeah.
So, and it is a big worry going forward, and how, and this is a different conversation. This is not what Ed was planning.
I might go actually, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I want to say, which could affect us, which happened recently with Trolls being released on video on demand as its premiere release. And AMC, I don't know how it works in England just now. I forget now who runs the chains of theatres. But AMC and Regal, who are two of the main people, they had a big argument with Universal about the fact that Universal said that they were going to release films to premiere on VOD and the theatres at the same time. And AMC were like, no, you can't do that. And they were like, yeah, we can do that. So in this period of time, it's like, it seems again, you know, we went through the writer's strike and everything. Out of that came all of this new media, you know, this whole new thing. And I just feel like this is something's going to come up. We're going to come out of this and all of a sudden we're going to realize, oh, they changed this and they changed that. You know?
Could well be,
yeah.
So, I don't know. But anyway, let's talk about making movies.
I'm going to change. Yeah, I'm going to change the subject slightly, but we'll
Sorry.
No, that's good. I like it.
Change your hat. Did you notice?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. That was very, very subtle and quick.
Fabrizio, you know, you strike me as quite a passionate sort of creative guy, just from our conversations. But I'm just wondering. I'm curious if you go into a situation, and we always talk about the triangular relationship between the DP and the director. Do you always sort of strive for a position where you're going to have the most amount of creativity, or does it just literally depend on the circumstances?
It's such a tough question. I would say I definitely do everything I can to establish a much needed relationship as a triangle, as you describe it, which could become whatever you name it, a circle at a time, because then you create a synergy where everyone is on board and exactly on the same page, and you all fight to achieve the same goal. But there's so many variables that comes into play that is you can't put it into rules or bullet points. You know what I mean? It really depends the chemistry between director, DP, operator as well, of course, and as well the trust they put in you. You know, sometimes when you're lucky, you get hired from people that knows you and maybe knows the way you work and knows your work, your previous work. So you step on set and you are privileged in a way that they allow you straight away to give your input, you know, and they give you sort of carte blanche, which is ideal for us, of course. It's a very rewarding way of work. But sometimes we can fall exactly into the opposite situation where, let's say, a DP is very much involved because of the way of his work or her work, the way they see it. They're very much involved into framing, and there isn't much room left, for suggestions or input or a visual point of view, where you can offer something different and with, let's say, a fresh approach,
But,
So-
yeah, sorry, but would you say your preference, in the way you feel and in the way, is it more gratifying to contribute on that kind of level, do you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you said, I'm Italian, so, and as you said, very passionate about what I do. So my way of doing it is, I like not to be put into frames and forced into something, but rather, be able to express what I see and feel, what the camera move would be for a shot, or visually add an input to a scene, and that depends, again, so many variation. Ultimately are the artists on set that dictate what the scene is. You can plan months and months and end up with a short list, very detailed, where you end up with something written as a technocrane shot, you name it, and then on the day, because the leading actor feels something different, and while rehearsing, something new comes out, and if the director is open, to changes, and you offer a new perspective on how to shoot it, that's what I call art, more than technicality, and that's the real art. What happened on set between the artists and the crew.
And I guess also what you're saying, it's reading between the lines there, is allow yourself to be flexible depending on the situation as well, right?
Totally, because again, we can go between the two extreme and everything in between. Sometimes happens we work dailies, so you end up on a set where nobody, you haven't worked with any of the crew or nor the director and DP, and you were given a Steadicam shot that is the shot of the day, and off you go, and you have everything to prove. And,
Chris, I'm wondering if you agree with that as well. Is that in the same kind of lines as you'd go along with it? But I suppose when you've got a level of experience, do people look to you on set and and look for your your opinions and your views given your experience level?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to understand the theatre you're walking into, the arena you're walking into, with regards to the creatives that have been discussing and working on, how the movie's going to look or the show's going to look for many months before I turn up. So I have to be very respectful of their vision. So I try to learn as much as I can, listen as much as I can, see as much as I can, and try and listen in on conversations that I might not be invited to, but try to listen to, with costume design and production design and everything. I mean, the key grip generally is good for information. The gaffer's good for information about exactly who you're dealing with, and it always helps that if the usual suspects in terms of the guys that walking into a production. But like Fabrizio says, if you walk into a show where you're the newbie for the day, and I learned a big lesson recently. I did a show that I was going to do shut down. Stallone pulled out a week before we started shooting anyway. So I kind of took over a few little shoots for people here in Atlanta. And this had been the first time for a long time where I was actually coming into somebody else's gig, and it really was an eye-opener in terms of trying to quickly understand, okay, this is your job. This is what was expected from the previous operator that's had to go for whatever reason. and you're trying to come in and you're trying to learn as quick as you can about what the show is, you know, who the DP is, you know, and especially in television as well. There's a lot of new aspiring DPs that have got some great ideas and they're very creative, but sometimes I felt that the communication level wasn't as what I hadn't been used to, you know what I mean? So then I had to step back and forget about who I was and go back to trying to understand them. I mean, and just be able to do what they wanted me to do. And then you can actually start to maybe throw little bits and bobs in, little scraps in, and then they get confident with you. And then, you know, and then that's how you build a respect up between you and a new client, DP, director, producer. I mean, you know, it's never just one person either. It's, you know, yeah, I've gotten jobs, not gotten jobs because a producer didn't know me, a DP knew me, and then the director wanted someone else, and you know, and that happens all the time. So you've actually got to come in and you got to be respectful of the personalities and where they're coming from. So that's my first and foremost with any show, is to try and understand what they want and what do they want from me. And I will try my best to fit into their requirements, you know. And then hopefully we get to a point where they're open to suggestion in a much easier and free-flowing kind of way, you know. But I always feel that I feel personally that I need to earn that. You know what I mean? I've never gone in guns blazing. That's the worst thing you can do. Go in, be respectful, be humble, listen more than you speak, do what they want you to do. And then when things start to show that, well, you know, maybe we could do this a little bit better, or Chris, what do you think? And all of a sudden, there you go. You can start being collaborative. But yeah, I just feel that you kind of need to earn it, you know.
Yes, yeah, it's really good. Would you go along with that? Would you go along with that as well, Tony? I think same question to you, really. It's a good one.
Yeah, well, I think Fab and Chris have both sort of talk sense as far as being flexible between jobs and not going in with a big ego. So you and it's, I think in previous webinars, Chris might have talked about, you know, the fact that, and it's obvious that the director and the DP have been on this for way longer than when we come on during recce's, and then we've picking up bits of information. So when we come on, if you are on from the start of a job, you have maybe a couple of weeks, you got your recce's, production meetings, and throughout that whole time, you're just trying to figure out what the show is, what the director's trying to do with it, and you might see some storyboards, you might be able to steal some conversations with the DP, and when you, but even then, when you start, you're still on the back foot, you know, you're still trying to figure it out. So if someone's been very prescriptive about where you put camera, what lens you have, then there's always going to be a reason for it. And it may not be the right one, but you can't just say, I'm sorry, but this is not the way I do it, you know. Yeah. And what actually trips me up is you get so used to the way a DP works on one job. You know, one job they want no headroom at all. You know, you're literally just slicing up the top of the hair. You know, you go to the next job, you're doing exactly the same thing. You're like, no, what are you doing? I need more headroom, right? And you haven't to almost relearn per job, and that's the way it is, because there's no right answer. It's just it's an
exactly, and
there's no right answer.
Opinion.
Correct.
It's all about opinions, and that's the thing. You've
vision.
Got to, run
so
with that.
So what you said, Fab, by being flexible between jobs is imperative, really. But there's always ways to, even if you are, you know, having to put the camera at a height that you maybe not would want to do, or a lens you wouldn't want to do. Once the camera's rolling, it's you that's operating it, and then the actors, it's live action. We're shooting. We're not shooting a game, you know, a computer game. So there's always ways to put your own little spin on things, and it's really about reading what the scene is. And that's where you sort of find your answers, you know. And like you said, Chris,
they always say, you know, we see it first. You know, that's the big SOC thing over here. You know? And it's true, because when you're standing around on set and you kind of see what's going on with an actor, and you can see kind of a certain way that they might be spinning their their action dialogue, and you know, you can see that maybe there's a suggestion of hands, you know, and especially if you've got an actor that knows that if they kind of be pretty illustrative in a rehearsal. And there's been many a time actors have come over to you as an operator and maybe said, hey, listen, so I might do this next time, and you know, just to let you know, and I'm probably going to get out of the chair a little bit slower, you know, all those kind of things. And you know, it is amazing when you do work with those kinds of actors, because you're like, wow, they totally get it. They totally get it.
Apart from when you forget to tell your focus puller.
Well, exactly, yeah. Well, there's always going to be that. There's always going to be that.
All right.
We'll get on to communication in a minute.
So, we have a focus puller here in Atlanta. I love him to death. He's always like, he'll come over from the monitor and he'll come and stand up like this, and he'll be like, when did you decide you were going to do that? Go, I don't know. It just happened, mate. I mean, you went to tell you it happened. You know, and that's the other thing. It's because you're there and you see it with, you know, with your other eye, and you know that you're going to dip for it, but it's too late. You can't tell anybody.
I think it would be wrong to not go for it. You know, if you see something,
exactly.
We're all opportunists,
and actually, and sometimes you take a bollocking from a DP or director because you actually go for something that's there that they haven't seen, and you're going, you know what, I'm just going to go and take this hit, you know, because it's a really cool shot. It doesn't mess with the lighting, you know, so it's part of this whole action.
And the director comes over and goes, "Oh, that was superb," and you kind of go, oh,
classic, yeah.
Time to walk away. I'm going to the restroom.
Well, so DP's not talking to you.
Exactly.
So it's I think it's all about the game, really, you know, and you can't win them all, and it's not for us to be completely creative and put our stamp on everything the whole time, and sometimes you really want to hold back. And I find that actually in Steadicam is one area that you have to concentrate and hold them back, because you are completely free, you know, and it's so easy to go and add some more flourishes which are not part of that scene or are part of the story, you know. So that's like, you know, on a dolly you're sort of tied down. You have a grip that's part of your whole setup. And so that's one area in Steadicam you can actually sometimes go a little bit too far, you know. But sometimes you got to just sort of let loose a little bit, release a little bit of pressure.
Yeah, I mean, but I got to say these days as well, with a lot of guys, they know if they're going to put Steadicam on, they've got to be ready. You know, a DP won't let that happen unless they are confident. Because, you know, I've done stuff where the director's just kind of gone, just keep going. And I mean, on Harry Potter, Order of the Phoenix, you know, that's Sladimir Žižek, you know, the Polish DP who did that one. And it was a big 360. Yeah, it was a big 360 in the Ministry of Magic, and I did with the AR. But basically, that was my first foray into using the AR in the you know, the motion picture industry. It was, you know, really exciting for us, you know. And I ended up doing revolutions of it was like 3.5 minute takes, and it was just a constant revolution going around each of the characters. And the first few times we did it, David Yates was like, oh, this is fantastic, this is great, because they were going to hang a technocrane from a gantry so they could swing the head around and do the shot. But you know, they brought us in with the AR, and you know, we pulled off the shot. I mean, I got worked, I think in total, including all the different sizes and setups and amount of blood and the characters, I think I did about like 82 takes in total just for that one scene. But it was
on the AR.
On the AR, and it's a 3.5 minute take each time, and I think the scene ended up being, I think it was like 20-30 seconds. And that was my first foray into the motion picture business, because it was going to be like, they're going to keep going and going and going if they're on this tool. But Sladimir was initially so angry because he only wanted to do 180.
Yeah.
He didn't want to go all the way around.
Yeah.
You know, and
I learned
for good reason.
exactly. I learned a very valuable lesson in that, because I was young, dumb, full of cum, essentially, and I was like, I want to impress, and I can do this, and I can do this. But I did learn a lesson that I should have listened to the DP a little bit more there in that respect, because maybe I wouldn't have got my ass kicked so much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean by that? Because
Well,
nowadays you kind of go, so what are we after from this?
Yeah.
Well, why do I really need to wear it for like 3 minutes when the DP's going, yeah, I only want it from this side. Okay.
Yeah. Well, so he's expecting 180, which is already shafting him, and you're doing a 360.
This might be
I learned a big lesson from that.
This might be a good time to go to the Q&A, actually, because I've got a question that kind of relates to this from our man Stamos. I'm not going to try and say his surname.
Stamos Triantafylos.
Yeah, there we go. Hi, Stamos. He's got a question for, I think I'm going to throw this to Fabrizio. How do you deal with the old age operator's dilemma? The DP asks for one thing and the director asks for something different.
That's an everyday story for us. As Chris was mentioning, you learn lessons on your path, and you make treasures. So it's hard, you really have to be careful and know exactly what you're about to do and what you're about to offer and to say before anything. You need to shut your mouth for a second and make sure that your plan will not upset either or, that you're there to make everyone happy and succeed in the goal. Sometimes an artistic choice may put the DP, as Chris was mentioning, in a very difficult place, and you have an unwanted enemy, for the rest of the show. This is the last thing you want for a shot to be the hero of those 5 minutes, So you really, really have to think very carefully what you're about to go into, and that, I would say, goes down to experience, to come out with a solution that is good for what you're doing. It gives you, maximum value. It's going to look amazing, but at the same time, it's not going to upset massively people if you can.
It really helps if you're in that situation. What I've learned, if the three of you are together,
indeed,
discussing,
absolutely.
and if you're getting whispers in your ear, then you gravitate towards wherever the DP or wherever the director is, and that helps because it's then out in the open, Yeah. And then the worst case scenario is you are getting one feed and then another feed, and they're not talking. That's the worst case. And that's all really about communication, management, and just trying to get on and sort of reduce your role even more, so they can actually work things out. And that's and there's always reasons for both. There's always reasons and very valid and rightful reasons for both. So it's a total minefield when it comes to that situation, but fortunately it doesn't happen all too often.
Yeah, as I was saying, if the triangle is there and works, and you have the trust of DP and director, and the three of us are all together on something, you have the ability to speak up and say, look, it's a great idea. We're gonna run into this problem, that's what technically is gonna happen in 3 shots. We start doing, let's say, this coverage, and we can do that, but what's gonna happen in 2 hours is this. And then they can go, oh, okay, I can see that. What do you think? And then you go, well, we could do that instead, and find ourselves in 2 hours in a much better place. And then they look at each other and go, that's a good idea. Let's do that.
I think,
and then you save the day. You keep yourself in the right spot so they can think of, oh, we can ask him again, and still under the good light.
Yeah, I think it's like being having a positive attitude and having answers which may be saying, no, we can't do that, but with a positive spin will buy you some time to try to facilitate something that.
And that's what it's all about, is the positive spin.
Yeah.
And then trying to make it sound as though it was their idea. And that, you know what I mean? And that's the trick. That's the trick
Yeah.
to it. To being a good operator is being able to be, you're born of two fathers, you know, like from Platoon. You know what I mean? You got love and hate, you know what I mean? And you're right in between. You got the creative wanting it to be, you know, or the suggestion of the narrative. And then you've got the DP who wants it to look amazing, and we've got a 2-minute window. You know what I mean? And trying to find that and put yourself in an understanding place for both of those fathers is very important.
Well,
But
Chris,
for the most part, the most part in this country, in the UK anyway, it's DPs that hire you, right? Well, producers, but the most part, the directors don't always, they won't really always get the choice. Not sure how that works in the States, and certainly on TV dramas, it's been more likely you might get mentioned by a director, but it'd be more than likely be the DP that would hire you, you know. So you just got to be sort of quite careful, and we've all made mistakes.
But that's what I mean. Yeah, it's kind of like that very first time for me where I was on a big stage and I learned a big lesson, you know, because at the end of the day, we all read the script, we read the sides, we have our opinion about what it is, you know, and the DP has a very pre-produced connection to what that script or sides, the way that he has perceived those things to be, and then the director has his very narrative way of thinking, and then I will always now voice on the side of the DP. I will look at it from his point of view, and then hope to listen to what the director's saying, because sometimes I feel like maybe the DP's not really listening to what he's saying, and maybe it's not that much of a big thing that is bothering him, and then you as an operator, you can finagle it just a little bit to give him what he wants and not upset the DP, because you're on the side of the DP, but you want to help him out too.
You're trying to
find here we are, DP, the director, and here you are doing this. And then you try to I'm just going to finagle just a little bit. And I tell you what, sometimes I've actually gone to the DP and I've said, hey, so I figured I'd probably do that. And they go, okay, do that. And it's just.
And they feel you were on their side, definitely.
Yeah. It's finding that common thread, isn't it? You know.
Exactly. It's like you said, it's being positive. It's like, you got to be positive. Yeah. And I do find myself sometimes having a bit of a negative slant on stuff. And then I just have to kind of slap myself and go, hey, come on, get back in this, because, you know.
That's natural with long days, long weeks and travel. Absolutely. And you know, if you're a Steadicam operator, it's exhausting. Handheld can be exhausting. The whole day, everything in your brain can be frazzled. So it's easy to start getting a bit negative, but you're totally right there, Chris, that you have to give yourself a little slap around the face, you know, or get one of your assistants to go and do it for you, you know, and which they'd be happy to do it.
Or the grip.
And then just readdress that. But, you know, I mean, so going back to what you're talking about and with your first day on Harry Potter, you had this bit of kit, you knew what it could do, you're completely excited and energized by it, so it's not totally understandable why you just let's go, and forgot, you know, just got carried away with yourself. So I find that sometimes as well, that you just get in that moment where you just know what you can do and what you can offer, and sometimes you just do get ahead of yourself, and that's something you do have to check.
Yeah, that's why I love doing dance. You know, dance numbers. You know, I ended up being asked to do all the Pitch Perfect movies. But because of the fact that they liked what I would do on stage with the girls, you know, I could drift from character to character, and I knew that there was this little nuance going on, and you know, it really added to what they wanted, their vision of the girls' relationship. And then, like I say, I found myself working with 3 different DPs, 3 different directors, all with very different visions, you know, but with the catalyst for it all being Elizabeth Banks,
right?
And you know, I get off on being able to use the Steadicam to go from one character to kind of transition to something else, to I love that, and it shouldn't just be Steadicam either in that respect. It's, you know, as we've just seen with 1914, where you basically the one shot, which is what we all aspire to doing. By the way, is
that a prequel?
Yeah, exactly. Is being able to tell a story with the camera in one narrative.
Yeah.
But to be on a journey, and you know, we all aspire to that, I think.
Yeah, well, it was amazing in its relentless pursuit of the story all the way through, you know, and of course, like an amazing achievement. But that's a great thing to be involved in, you know, extremely exhausting.
But the thing for me was that it wasn't so much the camera. I mean, you know, I've been involved with the AR since 2002. Which was the, you know, going from high to low and low to high, and, you know, keeping the whole thing going, and I loved doing that. But I was never really given the opportunity to do anything like 1914. I used it on many different things, and we tried different things, but the narrative was never, it still wasn't there, you know what I mean? That's what was missing. And this, on Iron Man 2, we ended up using the AR for the Bocam, for the Vistacam, because obviously the film goes, you know, it goes from one screen to the other.
Yeah,
because it's using the ratio. So we use the AR to basically keep it level, basically. The kit being used in a purely technical. I mean, nowadays you got the Volt, you got the Wave, you got the Trinity. You got the Ronin, Movi, but you know, I have to say that the AR, in what form it was, the AR, the Revolution, the Omega, you know, I think it really did open up people's minds, you know, for what it was worth back then.
How often do you get out the AR?
To be honest with you, I don't really use it that much anymore, because the stuff that I'm doing, we generally are using Technicrane.
Okay.
For what we would use an AR for, we just use a Technicrane. You know what I mean? Unless the shot is, I mean, these days, looking back, like this is The Code with Morgan Freeman and Antonio Banderas. And my first shimmy with Tom Hardy in that movie before he did Bronson. We shot most of the movie off the AR because we could put it wherever we wanted to.
Yeah.
So I would find myself in positions where I was craning to get the camera somewhere we wouldn't normally be able to get it, and then push in, you know, or end up higher than you would do. You're starting on someone's feet. I did one shot in it. I did some really cool shit in that movie with Julio Macau was the DP, and he really wanted to kind of think about how we could use the AR in a way that we hadn't seen it any shots like this before. But you know, before the Technicrane and all that kind of stuff was readily available for that size of budget. And there was one shot where I started on Antonio Banderas's feet and came all the way up to see him poking his head through the clothes, and then I came in with him, and then I ended up the shot you just saw with him on the phone, where I came up over Morgan Freeman. But that started on Antonio's feet.
So you're pretty much at ground level.
Yeah, you know, and that was really cool for the time. And like I say, I think helped with the handheld gimbals as well, thinking about the shot. I mean, the skateboard shot, the skater shot going into the taxi and all that with the first Movi footage that we saw of that. That was great, but you still have to have the narrative
to
keep the shot going.
Yeah,
you know,
really
it's all about
that. About the AR and what you used it, what you applied it to there, Chris. I wonder if I could throw it to a slightly different subject, Fabrizio, sort of almost about what we were talking before, was that I think it's quite interesting. Don't you think that there's sort of a dark art, if you like, of operating is being a good communicator and being a good diplomat. Would you agree with that? I think that's possibly something that doesn't get taught to younger operators who are starting out. It's not just about pointing the camera.
it's it's all about what we've been talking so far, and it's definitely a key skill. It's communication and diplomacy on set is you can't do without. You need to learn those arts before operating, probably, because it's not about just moving a camera. Anyone can move a camera. It's about surviving the set, and and be the hero of the day if you want, even if invisible. But you have, as an operator, especially as a camera operator, you have a role of great responsibility, and sometimes unseen. You're just behind the camera, so you have to be a sort of a master in communicating with all the departments that depends on you, and you depend on them. So sometimes I find myself during rehearsals talking with, no kidding, around 20 people at the same time, and at the same time you're in the radio with the DP, and that is bread and butter for us. It's nothing special. That's what we do. And forget the picture. Before to make it to the picture, you still have probably an hour of dealing. We, again, the 20 people, all departments, set everything, make everything ready, when it's time to shoot. And then you can show off your skills of operating the camera. But way before then, there's all the process that involves, being able to maintain a good level of communication with your director, your DP, everyone around, the actors, of course, not to mention, because you ultimately are the one in front of them. So at the point you represent everyone else.
Well, speaking about showing off your stuff, let's have a look at some of our work. Fabrizio, you were brought in to work on A Christmas Carol. Tell us about you, how you got involved in that, and I'll perhaps show a clip. What I'll do is I'll post it on the Q&A chat for everyone, and
Sure.
for you to open up a window and play it along at the same time, just to get a flavour of what we're talking about. And Fabrizio, just tell us about getting involved in that project.
Sure. I got involved into the project very late on, halfway through actually. Very good friend and a lovely DP, Cybel, which I worked with a few times. And he called me one day and said, hey, you know what? You want to jump on second half of the shoot? I've been doing a camera myself. I'm way too tired. The project is very big. What we're planning to do now is go in studio, do 5 or 6 weeks, can't remember exactly what it was, but 5 or 6 weeks of dance floor work, gearhead, mostly gearhead, and dolly shots. And I said, of course, I'm very happy to step in. Sai's a lovely guy to work, so I was very excited. And it was, on paper, of course, a very nice project, produced by Ridley Scott and Tom Hardy, Guy Pearce, leading actor, Stephen Graham. So a lovely environment. And so we started, and we were in studio, and we started the first couple of days, and we were looking for a sort of different look for that portion of the shoot, because it was a time where Guy Pearce, the Scrooge, was facing all his demons, the ghost, and very dark environment, and the mood of the film was getting very, very dark, and darker actually. And after the first couple of days, moving around sets, all on dance floors, gearhead and dolly, I realized we were sort of missing something, and I was feeling that we weren't close enough with the actors and their perception of space. So I suggested, how about don't we try and put the Steadicam mounted on the dolly? Let me show you what it gives us. It's a bit of a different feeling, because you're still on wheels on the dolly, but the Steadicam is more alive. It's less mechanical than a gearhead. And as soon as I show it, the very first rehearsal, going around in the rooms with Guy, the director, Nick Murphy, went, "Oh, amazing! fucking amazing, let's do it. And from there on, we did the whole thing mostly on Steadicam, hard mounted on dolly, just because it was the right thing. We found out. I mean, we had a feeling of a live, lens with the actors in this moment. We were witnessing with them what was happening, because we were surrounded by invisible ghosts that was giving us the feeling that the camera was really with them.
And you didn't have to walk.
Put it that way.
But it's great. That's great.
Great hair,
We're all there. But it's great doing that on the dolly because you can also get really floaty with the jibs as well. So you've got your arm and you can just like jibs well. It's great.
I'm a big fan of hard-mounted work on Steadicam, especially for low mode stuff. You can hard mount very low and scrape the floor, and it brings you in a different dimension. Let's say it opens up different views, and coupled with I love the Fisher 10, for example. The very latest one with the hydraulic, updated hydraulic, it's just an amazing dolly. And if you have a very good dolly grip, it becomes a word. It's so enjoyable. I love doing it. Very simple.
Also, it goes back to having the confidence to basically suggest that.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because sometimes if you was to suggest something that made it look like you were going to have an easier day, for some reason that they think you're going to have an easier day, you have to be positive in your suggestion and how it's going to help, and to help tell the story. Because you're right. I mean, many a times I found myself, we want to be low mode, we want to be right scraping the deck. Well, I'm 6'2", and
exactly.
I gotta get that post as long as I can get it. I always fly with a 4-stage post. Anyway, I always have done, and I put my drop down arm on my Klassen vest to get it as low as I can, but I still can't hit the ground. But you put me on a rickshaw or a dolly for days, you scrape, you're literally right there looking up, you can see the faces of people sometimes, but it's having the confidence and being positive in your suggestion.
Absolutely.
Once they see it, once they give you the time to see it. In fact, I did it recently on a Ronin shot on Bad Boys. The thing where he gets one of the actors gets shot, and they want the camera to be spinning around to see all the different friends coming out and figuring out what's happened and blah blah blah. And I mean, this, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning on Miami Beach, and it was like crazy. You've been working all night, but I really fought for the fact that, hey, listen, what we'll do, we'll get Daryl, my dolly grip, he'll wear the Ronin 2 with the easy rig. All he has to do is keep it low. All he has to do is keep walking around the group of people, the crowd of people. And then what I can do as an operator, I can smoothly transition with the head to all the different characters. But the suggesting it was like, my suggestion, they all looked at me like, so you don't want to do a Steadicam?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but here's the thing, I can concentrate on telling the story better, and I just really sell it to them. It took a little bit longer trying to get the kit ready. And the DP kept coming over to me saying, so, you said this was going to be, and I'm like, we were like 15 minutes, the usual. We ain't got 15 minutes to spare, but we'll wait 2 hours for a wig. We did the first take, and Rob, the DP, came over and said, "There's a great idea. I can use so much more of this." And because there we were on 100mm lens.
It is very rewarding when we can sell what we see, and we know for fact. Technically it's going to work, and possibly better than what they had in mind, that's great satisfaction, I think.
And you only offer it up when you know it's not going to take all day to get it set up, and that's key. Actually, it's all the stuff that goes on the background with all your kit. So knowing your kit is essential, and whatever mode you might go in, if you're making suggestions, you want that to be like snapped in. You want to be set, you want to have your everything set up so you can actually transition as fast as
what
you
I've done,
possibly can.
what I've done in the years, learning few tricks here and there, and learning lessons, of course, even before to sell an idea. Sometimes, hey, pal.
He's
Sometimes,
probably a leader.
That was,
That's nice,
yeah,
isn't
you
it?
trained him really well,
Yeah,
man.
good lad.
Well
you're the
done.
man.
Right.
You're the man.
Cheers,
Where's
Louis.
mine? No.
Sometimes before to sell an idea, what I do is I have a quick chat with the grip, get him to a corner. Hey, what do you think if we go into that? What would it take to get it ready? And he goes, 5 minutes, I'll get it ready in the back. So even before selling the idea,
Yeah.
your plan is ready.
You prime it.
So when they ask
Yeah.
me, well, how long would it take? It's ready to go. I'm
Yeah.
ready to shoot. And they go, oh, wow, okay, I'm on.
Yeah.
It's all those little things that you learn during your way, and then you can apply and makes it easier to sell.
Yeah.
To sell a successful idea.
There's no flash idea, is it? It has a point of gestating where you're thinking about, oh, actually, this would be a much better idea. How can we make this work? So before you just blurt it out, you get all the background sorted out.
Well before, definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
I always
Huge
found that
aspect of
it's
it.
good to try and
Sorry.
always get your dolly grip and your key grip on side in that respect.
Yes.
Because if you get a few of you all making a similar suggestion, then generally you kind of it's a lot easier for them to kind of go, yeah, okay, let's try it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
make
it's an
it
easier sell.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think, Chris, I mean, we'd be remiss if we didn't speak about this, the True Detective shot. It gets mentioned quite a bit, and I wonder if we could just take a look at it. I'll post a little link for people. There is something you can watch. But can you just tell us about how that came about? I watched True Detective at the time. I thought it was an excellent series. Congrats on it. And this sequence comes at the end of an episode, and it's kind of it jars a little bit in the sense that it's not unlike it's not like the rest of the coverage, and it's mostly kind of a bit more subdued. But this was a big action packed one shot. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, throughout that series, obviously, you never really knew where McConaughey's character was heading, basically, because he was the protagonist in respect of there's something not quite right in terms of the whole story, Woody's character is the guy that had morals. Well, you would have thought he had morals, but I guess not. But when I first went into Adam's office, Adam Arkapour, the DP, he's amazing, talented fella. The idea was that McConaughey's character was going to be the guy. He was going to be the ringleader. So there was going to be a whole double cross thing, which really excited me. But HBO basically, they disbanded with that, and as we went along, the season kind of got rewritten in respect of where McConaughey's character was heading. And the stash house sequence, basically you kind of get to know McConaughey better in respect of his direction and the fact that he really was in a dark place with respect to doing his policing, if you know what I mean. And when it was suggested that this was going to be a one shot going through the neighborhood, it was like, oh, awesome, yeah, fantastic. But we're not going to be able to use XL because they wanted to use the XL for this, the Panavision XL. Because to get through some of the doorways and these small little project houses, because this was an actual project housing subdivision in New Orleans, really, really poor area. And in between a lot of the divisions, there was actually proper big metal fencing that was dug down deep into the earth. And at the end of the shot, obviously, he climbs over the fence, and I had to go over with him. So we had a Titan crane, and I stepped on it, and it already had a drop down built onto it, so the arc wouldn't there wouldn't be so much of an arc as we came up and over and down again. But my answer to that initially when I heard about us going through the fence was that, well, can we just take out a portion of the fence so then I can go up a ramp and then come back down the ramp and suggest the camera's going over with them. Well, and everyone thought it was a great idea, but apart from the cops. The police didn't want to open up that section of fencing because once it's been opened, it will be opened again. So that was the kind of area we were in, and the police found it very difficult to make sure they contained everything that was going on there. So go back to the size of the footprint of the camera. A lot of the doorways in the houses were so tight to get through. And Carey, there's one particular bit where in the last house, we wanted to enter the house parallel to McConaughey and Ginger, sliding down the outside of the house. We don't see them, but the camera slides with them and then comes out the other side of the house through the door frame to reveal them popping out the other side of the house. So we go through the house and see all the locals tooling up and smoking ganja and all that. But I wasn't going to be able to do that with the size of the mag. And also, we wouldn't have been able to do it with that length of shot with a 400-foot mag anyway. So, you know, there was that whole thing going on, and then it became apparent that we'll just use the XL. So that was, we switched from a film show to a digital shot to be able to attain that shot. So I had a certain amount of influence in, apart from getting a big piece of the fence cut out, I managed to get us to do it on a camera that was going to help us get in and out of the houses. But there's a couple of times that you see me knock the rig. In the first house, as we come back out, the kids goes and looks through the blinds, and then we whip back around into the house. I knocked the rig with my knee, and they come back in, and we see all the foray going on, and we switch rooms, and then we come around and then pick up Matthew again, and then we leave the house, and then we come around them, and that was again trying to get the rig out in front and away from me to lead a charge out of the house. There's so many different working things going on with that shot. Not only me and the camera, but the actors, all of the background, which incidentally, most of the background were local residents who were fantastic. The AD department were stunning on that show, just in general. And Carey's idea with it for being a oneer was that he wanted the camera to be with them all the time. He didn't want to miss a trick in anything that was imperfect. You know, there was takes that were a lot different to another take. Well, I think we did 8 takes in total. But that one, everything seemed to just fit in. Even everything that wasn't perfect seemed to work towards it being believable. And I always remember when we finished that shot, and you know, I'm gasping for breath, walking back to the video village, and I could hear everybody whooping and clapping, and oh, that was it. And I was so bummed about knocking the rig. I was so bummed, and they were like, "No, that was great. That was great. It really added to it all, and didn't even notice it, did it? You know, the whole thing." And then when I kept trying to sell, listen, I think we should still do it in 2 passes. So we pick it up at the clothesline. You can see the shot. They dip down, and then they run off through the clothes, the big sheets hanging, and it was an obvious invisible cut. Or why it could have been easy, and then we just concentrate on the last bit, getting over the fence and everything. But Carey was adamant that he wanted the camera to be with them. He wanted you as an audience to feel exhausted, like they were exhausted, you know. And even McConaughey, he just didn't like it. I think we would do something right at the very end there, and he said, "No, this doesn't work. It just isn't right." So all the justification for the oneer it became more and more apparent as time went on that the camera was the audience with them on the journey of getting out of there, because the shit was going down. You know, the cops coming, the residents were getting too long. The stash had just been broken into. You know, there was a lot of pressure, and it was kind of bearing down on them. And I think when the camera looks as though it's getting tired, because I was getting tired. It really adds to it. And then when eventually I saw it go out, when the show went out on TV, I was just kind of out of breath. Not that I knew. I think that I always tried to dispel any of my connection to something for the first time. I tried to just watch it and enjoy it in its full narrative. And when I saw it, I was like, "Yep, Carey was so right." It makes it so much more believable. Not being perfect, it was just so much more immersive. And incredibly proud of everybody that went into making that thing happen, because it was astounding. There was one shot on that show that I actually preferred out of everything, was the shot where the car pulls up at the church, and it's a long dolly shot, and we see McConaughey's character get out, and then he looks up at the sky, and you see all these starlings, and they do the symbol. They basically fly in the symbol, and I get goosebumps every time I see that. It was superb.
Tony, did you want to say?
Tony, yeah.
No, I was going to say, but the shot going through the estate, it's such a pure, amazing in its purity of being a point of view shot. Right. And that's what Steadicam is really built for. And so any slight sort of movement up and down, or you are that person, you know. So that's why the audience is. I'm sure, that's what Carey would see in that, you know. Yeah. And sort of seeing the sort of human fatigue as it goes along. You know, I remember watching it. I was blown away by it. It's incredible. Yeah. And the fact that what had come previously, there was a complete change in pace, wasn't it? So fantastic.
Well, again, because you want to do the best jobs that you want to do. Well, and you're thinking on it from a technical point of view. You kind of find yourself sometimes getting stuck in mud in that respect. And then you have to try to step back from it and go, hang on a minute, what is he after, and what is the actor talking about? And I'm so glad it. Yeah.
You have to make peace for yourself with that, don't you? You know, when you're driving back home that night, you cannot be going round and round in your head, because you won't be doing that. You know, it's and all your thoughts are for the most part aren't right, but you're just being professional. You know.
Yeah.
I think also the way that we criticize our own work perhaps drives us to improve it all the time anyway.
Yeah. Oh, sure. And it is important to be over critical, because you can always step back from that, you know. It's you caring about what you're delivering and what you're trying to do with the story.
We're swiftly running out of time here, guys, but I would like to, if possible, Tony, just talk to you. I'm an unashamed Black Mirror fan. I think I've watched every single one of them. So it'd be rude not to ask you about your involvement with that program. It's obviously episodic and they're standalone episodes, so sort of like mini movies, aren't they?
Yeah, and I've done 3 whole ones since they moved to Netflix. The last one was Bandersnatch, which was a multiple choice scenario, and in the first one I did was it's called Men Against Fire. Is that what it's called? Men Against Fire.
Yeah.
Yes. And that was like an all action, implanted in brains, army guys, and that was an incredible shoot to work on. We did some really cool things. Total chaos for the time we did it, you know. So they're all a lot of fun, and the great thing about them, I mean, apart from the writing, which is, you know, Charlie Brooker is obviously successful for a very good reason, and the show's successful for a very good reason, but they're all completely different. So like you said, they're all like mini movies, but you're still, I think, Men Against Fire, I think we did that in like 3.5 weeks. And the other one I did on the same season, I forget the name, the one in the house
Playtest.
Playtest. I think that was about the same time. But then Bandersnatch was maybe about 7 or 8 weeks, given what we were having to do. So you do just push the boat out, and you wouldn't have been able to do, for all the ones I was involved in, wouldn't have been able to do that without having like amazing grips and amazing focus pullers with you along that, because it relies on everyone. That's from Bandersnatch. That was a little walk off, and that's a Alexa 65 that's on that. Didn't fall off that one, did I? No. So this is in Croydon. This is in Croydon. This is actually at WH Smith's that was mocked up. So we actually had punters going in there trying to buy records when we were filming.
But then get the red bus in there as well.
This scene, that whoever shot this behind the scenes, we cut before we. The shot actually continues all the way into the shop, so we see him then pick. He has a choice between what he picks, and one choice leads to a different resolution than the other. It's really clever writing, and we that's same show. So we shot on the Alexa 65. We shot on 35mm. We shot on there's 416 at the bottom there. And I think we shot on different parts of the story. So the bulk of it we shot on the 65, which is a bit of a beast of a camera, but I mean it's beautiful, you know. And a lot of it was very close into the main character. 35mm was all flashback. 16mm was there was a documentary story within that, so we shot 60mm for that, and then we also shot a game show, or it was a computer show on the old Ikegami cameras, the tube cameras that Chris was talking about earlier on, which were so much fun, you know. So we can't remember where we got them from, but a specialist came out with the cameras, which they all worked fine, you know. So it all gave a certain look. So that's on TV. That's you know, that's on Netflix, but it's on TV that, you know, we shot all those formats, and we still, I think we had minis out as well for certain things. So it was a bit of a head messer of a show to get involved in it, and exhausting for everyone. But I mean, you can tell if you see it, it just looks incredible, you know. And the story really works. To me, it felt sort of autobiographical in a very, very messed up way, you know. So I sat and watched it, and I think the first time I gave my wife the control for the TV, I said, "Look, you make all the choices for a change, you know." And you know, it's interesting to sort of watch it for that reason. But it's a very, for everyone to get their head round, every single person, you know. And there's so many discussions when you're trying to repeat certain strands with subtle differences that would take you off in completely different tangents. So I mean, it was exhausting, but yeah, they're good shows, you know. There's a lot of fun to work on.
Yeah, I remember watching the Bandersnatch episode. It's truly unique in the way it's set out in terms of its interactivity. I think I went to sleep that night having nightmares, thinking about, you know, avenues and things I could have done, and it's really interesting. I recommend it if anyone's on Netflix.
Yeah, no, it's great. You know, I haven't watched.
I wonder if there's going to be more of that kind of thing in the future. Maybe, you know, interactive TV shows, whether it can work or not.
Well, I think it's sort of thing that would only work for certain scripts. I think the worry I would sort of say for something like that, and when I sort of read the script, I think, well, how can this be not gimmicky? You know, how can the viewer get lost in this? And Netflix and their technology was great with the whole choosing interface, because if you basically didn't make a choice, it would just choose for you. So the whole thing was seamless, and it was necessary for it to be seamless, you know. So it really worked for that. But it's just, you know, I think as a standard, it's, you know, if it wasn't done properly, it would just take you right out of the story, you know. So.
Yeah, excellent stuff, mate. So yeah, I think we're coming to the end. I've got a couple more questions, and I think I'm going to have to take some shorter answers if that's possible, guys. So I'm going to throw this one at Fabrizio. Tanya Marar, she says, "How do you keep fit and make sure you look after your back. And I guess that's in terms of Steadicam, but I'm sure, you know, any kind of operating really.
Yeah. Well, when you're young, you go to the gym, you tend to look at your upper body. When you start doing Steadicam, you realize you can't skip legs days. So, well, gym definitely. And well, the more you operate Steadicam, the more you get fit, because it's the best training you can do is operate Steadicam itself. You're gonna put some muscle at strain that you can't really address in the gym. You know, of course, a good training is key, but you know, the more you operate, once you're into Steadicam, the more you operate, the more you train into Steadicam, the better you find yourself in a good spot. You know.
One thing I wish I'd done more of is swim.
That's great that you said that. I mean, that swimming is, I go, well, not anymore, but I used the job I did before Christmas, I did a show called Cursed, and we'd be all over the place, you know, and I would just seek out swimming pools wherever we were, because after a long day, and even if you're just doing a bit of handheld and not in the rig, just going for a swim just stretches everything out, and swimming's it's an incredible form of getting yourself fit with your core, and even if you're doing half an hour, you know, it's a great thing to get involved in.
I've got one here from our fellow ACO member Max Rikavek. He says, Chris, I love what you did in True Detective, all the everyday stuff, apart from the long shot as well. How much of that did you operate? Did you do the whole series and all the normal stuff? And how was the decision-making process and all that kind of stuff? And that's probably a longer question to answer, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Adam tended to operate a lot as well. Adam Markapur, the DP. I noticed there's a question here from somebody else asking about what do you feel about DPs operating? I like it, to be honest with you, because you kind of get inside of their heads a little bit quicker. You know, like I've done a couple of things with Barry Ackroyd, and Barry is like the loveliest, sweetest, most genuine man you'll ever meet in this industry. And he has his way of looking at something, very, very much so. And he will be very, very direct in the way that if I was to start moving something off a table so I could have put a camera there, he'd say, Chris, no. But that's how the room is. You know, why would you put the camera there? But we all know there's something there, a filing cabinet. You know, and I get what you're saying. You know, because you're working within. You wouldn't be walking into someone's office, shooting a documentary, moving a filing cabinet so you could put the camera there. You would just film from where you could film. You know, we as film crews, we tend to think you have the right to move something, and generally we do, because we need to get around on a profile or whatever. And but you know what he was teaching me was again, learning the DP's opinion and taking that on board and putting yourself in his mode. So when you see another DP operating and you generally would be alongside them, you get into the heads quicker, and it always works really well. And with Adam, in that respect, on True Detective, you know, I think we work together really well, and hopefully that's what you hope that's what happens throughout a show, and you tend to answer each other's questions, which is where you want to be, really. I always like to think when you get to the end of a show, you can look at something and you could be thinking he's gonna say 65, he's gonna say 65, and he'll say, let's throw the 65 on, and then you go, yes, you know. And then there's times where they're going, oh, we should maybe do this on a 50, and then you're kind of going, yeah, maybe 75 would be better. And they go, yeah, Chris, you're probably right. Let's put a 75 on. You know what I mean? And it's nice when you get that dynamic. And that, I think, works a lot with Adam as well in True Detective. And like I mentioned earlier, my favorite shot was when they were looking around the church, the burnt out church. It was one of my favorite sequences. long dolly shot with the car arriving and then Matthew getting out, and we see the starlings, and then we pull Matthew a little bit and we let him go. And the beautiful stained glass window, I just beautiful stuff, and many favourite sequences there. There was another thing where they went into the old school and they find the little ornaments. That was all Steadicam. That was all, you know, really immersive and finding things out with McConaughey's character. And
great looking show, Chris. Yeah, I'm with you. Everything Adam Arkapour puts, you know, touches turns to gold as far as I'm concerned. He's great. He's a great DP. I've got, what have we got? I'm wondering if you can answer this in 2 minutes, Tony. How can I, this is from Chai Rolf, hi Chai. How can I build experience in operating without DPing if often the projects available to me need DOP operators? I'm a second AC and I don't have huge amounts of free time or energy for prepping short films promos as a DP, but I really want to build some more experience. You got any thoughts for Chai?
Does he operate Steadicam? Has he bought a Steadicam rig? That's one way of.
Imagine the answer.
That's the one way. That's the one way in, you know. And short films are a great way, so you can actually offer up your service. And I did that. Before I started operating, I just knew I had some DP friends. Listen, I'll come operate for you. I'll operate for you. I'll help you out, and I'll also help with the kit. You know, as a way to sort of.
He doesn't operate Steadicam. He's just said so. Yeah.
He has.
He hasn't. No. So yeah, not yet.
Don't buy Steadicam. There's too many Steadicam operators. There is.
I think we'll leave it on that.
Thanks
so much, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. Fabrizio, thank you. Chris,
thank you.
Tony, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for sharing all your thoughts and everything.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you to Chris Plevin, who's behind the scenes. Danny Bishop for hooking me up with Chris as well, and Ilana and Sham and everyone. So thanks very much. Thanks everyone for watching. And
thank you.
See you again. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Take care.